He put his hand there and it squeezed quite hard.
Did that hurt when he put his hands around your foot?
She was only 7 when strangers found her wandering the roadside, shaken, injured, and too scared to speak. What no one knew then was that the man who harmed her was already linked to the loss of 2 young lives. And unless she found the courage to point him out, he would walk free again. This is the case of Rachael Watts, the girl who survived, and the truth that exposed one of Britain's most dangerous predators. In February 1990, a couple was driving near Brighton when a small figure stumbled from the bushes. It was a little girl, barefoot, trembling, barely able to speak. Her first words sent a chill down their spine. "Are you going to take me too?" That fear revealed how deeply she had been traumatized. The couple quickly wrapped her in a blanket and called for help. At the hospital, her mother arrived desperate to hold her daughter, but police gave her instructions no parent should ever hear. They told her to stay calm, to hide every tear, every sign of emotion, because if Rachael sensed fear, she might shut down completely, and without her words, they could lose the chance to stop the person who had done this. Her mother sat beside her, forcing a smile, while Rachael quietly colored in a book. Beneath that calm surface, the little girl was carrying a secret too terrifying to share. Days later, police asked Rachael to do something incredibly brave. She was placed behind one-way glass, and on the other side stood a lineup of men. She was told the man who had harmed her might be there. She scanned their faces, and without hesitation, she pointed to one. Russell Bishop. To the officers, that name was all too familiar. Bishop wasn't just any suspect. Only a few years earlier, he had stood trial for one of the most shocking crimes Brighton had ever seen. 2 young girls, best friends, had been found lifeless in the woods. The case had been dubbed the Babes in the Wood, and Bishop had been the prime suspect. Back in October 1986, Brighton was gripped with fear. 9-year-old Nicola Fellows and her friend Karen Hadaway had gone out to play but never returned. The community searched frantically until their bodies were discovered in a park, arranged side by side. The city mourned, and police moved quickly to find answers. Suspicion soon fell on Bishop. His behavior was odd. He made comments that seemed rehearsed, and investigators discovered a blue sweatshirt they believed tied him to the crime scene. But when the trial began, the case unraveled. A key witness changed her story, and evidence that seemed convincing at first appeared shaky under scrutiny. The defense painted Bishop as a victim of weak police work, and in the end, the jury had doubts. He was acquitted. For the families of Karen and Nicola, it was devastating. Worse still, under the law of double jeopardy, Bishop could never be retried for the same crime, no matter what new evidence surfaced. The families were left with heartbreak, and Bishop walked free. Fast forward 4 years, and he crossed paths with Rachael. She had been roller skating near her home when she lost her way. Frightened, she asked a man for directions. That man was Bishop. Instead of helping, he tricked her and forced her into his car. Locked in the trunk, Rachael found a hammer and other tools. She pounded on the lid, screaming desperately for someone to hear. Bishop silenced her with threats and later abandoned her deep in the woods. But unlike his earlier victims, Rachael refused to give up. She gathered the strength to stumble through the trees until she reached the roadside, where she was rescued. Her survival would change everything. When police examined Bishop's car, they discovered fibers, tools, and blood evidence that matched Rachael's account. Combined with her brave identification at the lineup, it was enough to charge him. In December 1990, Bishop was convicted of kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. For Rachael, it was a small measure of relief. At last, it seemed he could never hurt another child again. But prison sentences do not always mean forever. By 2004, Bishop was eligible for parole after serving just 14 years. For Rachael, the news was crushing. She believed he would come back for her. The trauma left deep scars. She developed severe anxiety and agoraphobia, rarely leaving home. In interviews later, she admitted that every time she stepped outside, she felt as though Bishop was lurking somewhere nearby. Her childhood had been stolen, and even adulthood was lived in constant fear. Meanwhile, the families of Karen and Nicola refused to give up. They kept pushing for answers, certain Bishop had been guilty all along. But the law had tied their hands. Justice seemed impossible. Then in 2005, everything changed. The United Kingdom repealed the old double jeopardy law. This meant if new and compelling evidence was found, a suspect could face trial again. At the same time, DNA technology had advanced in ways unimaginable back in the 1980s. Investigators seized the opportunity to re-examine the evidence from the Babes in the Wood case. This time, the results were undeniable. Bishop's DNA was discovered on one of the girls. After nearly 2 decades, the missing link had finally been found. Bishop was arrested once again. In 2018, more than 30 years after Karen and Nicola's lives were cut short, Bishop faced a new jury. The courtroom heard the damning forensic results, his years of lies, and the chilling similarities between the cases. The prosecution left no doubt, and this time the jury reached a different conclusion. Bishop was guilty. The families of Karen and Nicola finally received the justice they had been denied for decades. For Rachael, the verdict was a turning point. It confirmed what she had always known, that her attacker had been responsible for more than just her suffering. Her courage to survive and speak out had helped unmask him once and for all. Despite the lifelong trauma, Rachael refused to let Bishop have the final word. She built a family, found love, and slowly rebuilt her life. The scars remained, but so did her determination. She was no longer just a survivor. She was living proof that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, strength and resilience can shine through. The story of Rachael Watts is a chilling reminder of how fragile justice can be and how much difference one brave voice can make. Justice was delayed, but it was not denied. What do you think? Should Bishop have been stopped back in 1986? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories where hidden truths finally come to light, don't forget to subscribe and watch our next video. Sometimes the darkest mysteries hide in plain sight.